All right, let's talk about something that's probably happened to you. You get a new car, you're super excited, and then your friend gets in, scuffs the side of the seat with their shoe, and bam, big, ugly white mark. Or you go to adjust the seat and hear this awful, cheap-sounding creak and crack, and you just think, did I really just pay all this money for junk? Well, today we are going to dive deep into those seemingly insignificant plastic parts, because believe me, they are one of the most critical and most deceptive parts of your entire car. So think about that plastic shell on the side of your seat. You know, the one you've kicked 100 times getting in and out without a second thought. What if I told you it's not just a piece of trim? What if it's actually the seat's last line of defense in a crash? I know, it sounds a little crazy, but the engineering that goes into that one piece of plastic is, well, way more complex than you'd ever guess. And it all comes down to the tiniest details, stuff that seems totally insignificant. Like this number, 8 yuan. We're talking about a single US dollar. What on earth could be important about $1? Turns out everything. That was the price tag on a single, tiny plastic seat adjuster in a car from a major brand. $1. Seems like a rounding error, right? A totally reasonable cost-saving measure. But the consequence when that $1 part failed? Well, it wasn't a small problem. It was this big, $120,000. That's right, one single 8 yuan plastic part failed, and it forced a massive recall of 120,000 vehicles. That is the hidden world of car seat plastics. It looks cheap, it looks boring, but when it goes wrong, it goes catastrophically wrong. So let's get into it. Let's explore this hidden plastic world right underneath you. We're not just talking about trim pieces, we're talking about a whole ecosystem of parts that act as the seat's bodyguard, its silencer. And yeah, in a crash, its lifeline. You can pretty much break all these plastics down into 3 main camps. First, you've got the show-offs. These are the parts you can actually see and touch, the side shields, the back panels. Then you've got the unseen heroes. These are the critical bits inside, like gears and sliders, that make everything move smoothly. And finally, you have the functional specialists, parts tied to the fancy features, like the ducts for your ventilated seats or brackets for the sensors. Okay, so here's the most important thing to get. These plastics are multitaskers. They're doing a bunch of jobs at once. The best way to think about it is like this. They're a combination of your phone case and your AirPods case. They have to be tough enough to take a beating and stop annoying squeaks, just like a phone case. But at the same time, they need to have these super precise little clips and parts that work perfectly thousands of times, just like that satisfying click of your AirPods lid. So, this all leads to the biggest headache for engineers, what I call the impossible triangle. Every single plastic part in your car seat is a constant battle between 3 things: cost, performance, and looks. Here's the deal. You can pick any 2, but you can almost never get all 3. And this is where car makers make those crucial decisions that directly affect you and your safety. And this right here shows you the trade-off perfectly. On one side, you've got the cheap and cheerful option, polypropylene, or PP. Car makers love it because it saves them money, but it feels cheap to the touch. And worse, it can get super brittle and just snap in the cold. On the other side, you have the good stuff, the high-performance materials like PA and POM. These are the strong, silent types, incredibly durable, resistant to heat, but yeah, they're expensive. Let's get a little more specific. Think of this as the secret menu of plastics. You got your basic PP, the economy choice, for stuff like side panels, but then you get into the serious hardware. PA66 with glass fiber. We'll call that one the Navy SEAL. It's used for critical gears because it's just insanely strong. Then there's POM, the Swiss watch of plastics, used in high-end memory seats because it's so precise. Each one has a very specific job and a very specific risk if the manufacturer decides to cheap out. And if you think I'm exaggerating, just look at the difference in strength. It's not even close. On the left, you've got your basic PP. It's there. But look what happens when you move to the right, to something like glass fiber reinforced nylon, or PA. The performance jump isn't just a little better. It's on a completely different planet. This is literally what you're paying for in a well-built car. Now, I know this all sounds a bit abstract, so let's talk about a very famous, very real-world example of what happens when a company makes the wrong choice in that impossible triangle. Let's talk about Tesla's potato chip lesson. Back in 2017, early owners of the Model 3 started noticing something odd. Their seat adjustment handles were literally snapping off in their hands. This wasn't just a little squeak. The part was disintegrating. And one owner described it perfectly. He said it was like crushing a potato chip. So here's exactly how that disaster unfolded. In early 2017, to cut costs, the material for that handle was switched from the strong PA stuff to the cheap PP stuff. The result? By the end of the year, the failure rate hit a staggering 8.2%. After a huge outcry, they redesigned it in 2018, switched back to the better material, and reinforced the design. And the result of that? The failure rate plummeted from over 8% to just 0.3%. A perfect multi-million-dollar lesson in why you don't cheap out on plastic. Okay, so the Tesla story is the perfect setup for this next part. Now that you've got some insider knowledge, let's use it. We're going to debunk some of the biggest myths and outright lies you might hear about car quality. This is the stuff that'll help you see right through a slick sales pitch.
Let's start with the big one. Everybody just assumes this is true. A salesperson might even point to a metal lever and say, "See? Quality." But are metal parts really always more durable than plastic?
Nope, not even close. And this is going to flip what you think you know on its head. A high-end engineering plastic like that Navy SEAL PA66 we talked about can actually outperform metal. It's tough, so it can absorb shocks and vibrations that would literally crack a brittle metal gear. Get this, some luxury brands actually switched from metal gears to plastic ones, and their failure rates dropped by 40%. Yeah, you heard me, they switched to plastic to make their cars more reliable. All right, myth number 2. This one seems to make sense, right? You press on a plastic panel, it feels really thick and hard. That must mean it's high quality, right? Dead wrong. In the world of plastics, too hard usually just means brittle. And the last thing you want in a car crash is a panel that shatters into sharp, dangerous daggers flying around the cabin. Real quality isn't about thickness, it's about smart design. Good engineers use a network of internal ribs to create strength, kind of like the support beams in a building, instead of just making a thick, brittle slab. Okay, we've gone through the theory, the materials, the myths. Now for the most important part of all. Let's put everything we've learned into a simple, practical guide. Here are 5 dead simple tests you can do on your next test drive to spot cheap plastic from a mile away. All right, here it is, your 5-step BS detector. Number 1, look. Are the gaps between the plastic panels nice and even, or are they all over the place? Do you see any of those ugly white stress marks near the clips or screws? Number 2, smell. If you get in the car and it has a really sharp chemical plastic smell, that's a huge red flag for high VOCs. You don't want to be breathing that stuff. 3, press. Push on the side shield with your thumb. Does it feel solid, or does it flex and creak like a toy? 4, adjust. Move the seat. Back, forth, up, down, do it fast. It should be smooth and quiet, not jerky and loud. And finally, number 5, do your research. Before you even leave the house, spend 10 minutes on owner forums. Just search for words like squeak, rattle, or broken handle. Trust me, the owners will tell you the real story. Look, if you walk away with nothing else today, just remember these 3 things. First, cheap plastic isn't just an annoyance. It can be a real safety risk. Second, it's not just about the material, it's about how well the part is designed. And third, and this one is so important, see that little airbag logo on the side of your seat? That is a precision-engineered escape hatch for the airbag. Never, ever, ever cover it with a seat cover. It's there to save your life. So the next time you're in a dealership, don't just get distracted by the giant touchscreen and the fancy leather. Do the 5 tests. Push on the panels. Listen to the motors, because that unseen, unloved plastic that you used to ignore, that right there is the true character of the seat. And now you know exactly how to read it.